My name is Don Crawford with the company Conversica. Does everybody have paper with them in front of them? Because I know it's Vegas and I know it's still morning, but we're going to do some math today. So hope you get your math skills worked up. So we're going to talk about the dollars we waste in marketing, talk about advertising. We want you to look at advertising a little bit different way. We're going to give you some different ideas on how to think about marketing advertising. If you're an internet manager or director, how to grow your dealership. If you're an owner, how you're spending your money, how to get the best value for it, and how to look at the dollars differently. So we're going to talk about that. But we're going to start off with, like I always like to do, a little ditty. So pay attention to the words. The more you spend in haste, the less effect can be traced, the less facts that are faced owe the dollars we waste. Anybody know where sort of that came from? That's it, Dr. Seuss. So, oh, by the way, just a little housekeeping. Get a ticket up front because we're giving away, go over to the booth and we're going to do just a drawing for this group to give away 5 tablets. So we've got some stuff over here. So this really means a lot here, that we spend money in haste, we spend dollars in marketing, advertising, and then we're trying to figure out what are we actually getting for it, what's the real value of those dollars. So today we're going to sort of challenge you to think about all of that differently than you've ever thought before, and send you back to your stores, back to your dealerships, and rethink about how you want to grow your business and spend less money. That's always good. That's good news to know. So breaking news, the fastest way to grow your business is grow it. Next month, we all want to do better than we did this month. But not many of us have a great plan on how to do that. We just say, well, we'll get better. But we don't really have a plan of how to get better and how to get bigger or how do we become a big dealership. And we work with some of the biggest dealerships in the country. I work with a store, he tells 800 new every month. All he talks about is how to sell 900 new. So we're never satisfied. We're always trying to get bigger and better and grow our dealerships and grow our business. So the first thing we'll ask you is, are you measuring the right things? We're talking about sales. I'm not talking about fixed operations. We're really talking about growing your sales business. So are we measuring the correct things? So one of the things that's a pet peeve of mine, and because I work in other verticals beside automotive. So we work in IT, we work in real estate, we work in insurance, we work in healthcare, all these other verticals. I never hear close rate ever except for automotive. So if I work with IBM or Oracle or we work in real estate, we never hear close rate term. We hear lead velocity rate, but never hear close rate. It's just a different thought. So question is, can close rates really grow your business? The answer to that is no. Why? Because the biggest dealerships in the country have the same close rates as kind of the smallest dealerships. Yeah, there's a couple of percent here or there, but you're not going to double your sales this year and next year double or grow your business by growing and doubling and tripling your close rates. Nobody's close to 100%, which means that you can't get there. So that's not really the answer. But we measure that, and we use that as a measuring stick. But outside of automotive, no one really looks at close rates anymore. It's because close rates are always looking backwards at business instead of forward on how to grow. So the other question is, I've already answered it, is can you grow, or can you use the number of leads as a way to grow your sales? So if you are working with third-party providers today, and there may be some that have snuck in this room, if you're looking at, can we just buy more leads? Can we get more and more leads? Just go to there's many, right here, third-party providers. Can I just keep getting more and more leads? Will that help me grow my business? Well, you see the answer is no, because it's not the number of leads we get. That's also not a way to grow. And we're talking digital, so we're talking internet here. So we don't measure lead providers by the number of leads. We measure it by engagement. This is a tricky term. It's difficult to get there. It's going to take some calculations on your part and some work. But it's important to figure out the engagement piece. And as we get through this, I think this will start to make sense to you. The fact that it's even difficult to even measure in most stores actually will show you that it's really the measurement you should be looking for. You're really looking to figure out my engagement rate for every third-party provider I have today. It's the key metric that'll show you how to grow your dealership. All right. So we're talking about growing. We only want to talk about growing business. So we're going to tell you how to grow it by cutting. We need you to figure out what to get rid of in order to grow your business. So we need you to go backwards before you can go forward. So we're going to do some math now here. It's going to come up in a second. But before we do the math, I'm going to show you how we configure this. Now, you know, you're probably not, Car Etch, Auto Mover, Howards, and Fritz, they're not real, obviously, third-party providers. They sort of represent some. Maybe you can figure out which is which. But let's talk about these for a second. All right, so these are some estimated costs that here's a dealership that's spending $9,000 buying leads from third-party providers. And they're buying them different ways. Some are fixed costs, some are per lead, some are per sale. So they're all over the place. The question is, what is their effective lead cost? What's my true value that I'm getting from my marketing dollars? And if you look at some of these, we look at engagement rates. Now let's talk about what engagement rate really means. So engagement is a lead comes in, you ask a question or you respond, and you get the lead to spit one more email back. You got to get them to talk back one more time. It doesn't do any good that a lead comes in and that you have an autoresponder that reaches out and gets to the lead first. Stopping the clock does not grow your business. So if there's manufacturers here, stopping the clock is like washing your feet with your socks on. It's not going to get anywhere with that. That's not going to accomplish anything. You need to figure out that the real process is getting the lead to respond. Growing an internet department requires you to get a lead to engage, which will equate to an appointment, which comes down to showroom traffic, which comes down to a sale. I can tell you if you're a dealership that sells 100 cars, you cannot sell 100 cars on 90 people walking through your showroom. You need to have more than that. If you want to sell 1,000 cars, you better find a way to get 3,000 or 4,000 people. You can't do it with 500 people walking in. It all comes down to growing your business of getting more people into your dealership. Which marketing really does. The question is, are we doing it the most effective way? So take a look at these costs, and I'm going to show you how we do this before we do our math. So you look at the engagement percentages, the number of leads that the third-party provider gave you, and if you take that multiplied by the engagement, you see how many leads you actually got. So yeah, you say, oh, I got 500 leads. In this dealership, he could say, I got 575 leads. But based on the overall engagement, he really only had 146 opportunities. If I only have 146 opportunities, I can't sell 147 cars. I'm going to sell less than that. So if I need to grow my business, I got to find a way to get more opportunities. Don't worry about close rates. Don't let that hold you back. Don't worry about how many I'm selling. Worry about how many I can sell. So when you look up here, you start to look at, okay, what is the effective lead cost? Now this is going off the loop a little bit, but doesn't matter. We'll figure this out in a second. So the average lead spend is $16 when you look at it the way they build this out for the number of leads. But the effective lead cost is $63. What is the difference between these two? Is because you're taking the total amount of dollars by the number of actual people you had an opportunity to talk to. So you ended up spending basically $63 per lead. You may have only budgeted, you're thinking I'm spending $20 or $15 per lead, but you end up spending $60 per lead. What does that matter? It's because you're spending it inefficiently. And this is how much the marketing waste is. The idea is that if a lead provider gives you 1,000 leads and only 10 people talk to you or engage with you, that has less value than someone who gives you 20 leads and 19 talk to you. You have to think about the engagement portion of it. The total number is irrelevant. In this case, this dealer lost 75% of the marketing dollars by low engaging lead providers. And they're all over the place. Nobody ever measures it, and the CRMs don't give you the knowledge to figure out what that is. Since they won't give you the internal knowledge, you're going to have to do some digging to figure out what that is. Because until you can figure out what your engagement rate is, you don't really know what your effective lead cost is and what your true marketing reach really is. And to grow that, you're going to need to start holding third-party providers hold their feet to the fire to say, your value to me is not the number of leads, it's the engagement rate. It's not the quantity, it's the quality. It's a whole different way to think about the business. So it's school time. Break out your pencils, pens. You can use your iPhone for a calculator. So we're going to do some math. Okay. Now, these may represent lead providers that you actually work with today. Let's talk about lead provider A. Lead provider A gives you 200 leads at a 45% engagement and charges you $2,200 a month, a flat fee of $2,200 a month. I get the 200 leads. So what's your effective lead cost? So at 45% engagement, I'm paying $2,200 a month. I'm going to give you guys a minute to take a look at this. This is the first time I know we're thinking about this, but we're looking at what am I really effectively paying? Because think about it when you first see it. It looks like I'm paying around $10, $11 a lead. This is what my managers are thinking. This is what my people are thinking. I'm spending $2,200. I'm getting a couple hundred leads. Because you know what? The CRM tool tells me I got 200 leads. All right, here's the math. The effective lead cost is we're paying $24.44 a lead. There's the math. 200 times 45%. We really talk to 90 people, not 200. And of the 90, when you divide that by the $2,200, you're paying $25 a lead. So on the surface, we think we're paying $11. We're really paying $25. We're scratching the surface now. Now we're doing the math. Now we're thinking about, okay, I've got only so many dollars. How could I grow my business by cutting? I need to figure out what that is for all my third-party providers. I need to have a real cost of what it costs to do business with them. Is that making sense? All right, let's do the next one. Lead provider B delivers 300 leads. Now, they're different. They charge you $22 a lead, so they're going to charge you for every lead they give you. But they only have a 37% engagement. So the question is, you were charged $6,600 because you got charged 300 times $22. So your gross billing was $6,600. But how much was your effective reach? We're going to talk about reach and lead cost. So play around with that one for a second. Again, if you're paying per lead, you have to start trying to figure out, okay, what's the effective lead cost for those leads? So play around with the number for a second. The effective lead reach, now there's two words I'm going to give you, effective lead reach and effective lead cost. So in this case, the reach is $24.42 because effectively, this is very easy, 37% of $6,600. So I spent $6,600 with you, but only 37% responded. So I'm only reaching really, the marketing value to me is really only is really 37% of that, or it's $24.42. But I'm really paying $60 per lead. I'm not paying $22 a lead. The effective lead cost is almost $60. Now the question is, what's the real value now? Forget about what you're selling. We need to think about, okay, well, this guy up here, I'm paying $24. This one down here, I'm paying really $60 to get someone to talk to me. It's how much does it take to get someone to talk to you because you can't get an appointment, you can't get showroom traffic unless they'll talk to you. They're not going to magically come in. The last one's even more difficult because it's going to make you think about, again, business a different way. Lead provider C, we won't say who they are. You can guess at this one. Delivers 150 leads but charges you $300 for every sale. That one kind of looks easy too because you say, well, I'm not paying unless I'm selling something. And last month you said there were 4 sales and an engagement of 30%. So you got billed. We had 4 sales at $300. We got billed $1,200. Now this was a model that around the country you can find it on different lead providers. But I effectively only paid $1,200, right? That's kind of easy. But the real question about this is this next part. The cost was $1,200, but with only 45 leads responding, is the value really there? Because you had 105 leads that didn't respond. So here is a piece of the automobile industry that we don't measure. And this is one of these things you have to go back to your store and look at. The effective cost of chasing 105 leads who won't respond to you is a lot. Because your time and effort to go, people that don't respond require twice as much time as the ones that do respond. Because you're calling, you're emailing, you're wasting a lot of precious time trying to get people to respond. So where you look at this and say, well, I only spent $1,200 because I only sold 4 cars, which means it didn't cost me anything until I sold it. It did take your people away from the people who want to buy from you. It's inefficient use of your time. So low lead providers eat up valuable time, on top of having a high cost of lead, they also are effective users of your precious time. So those are the things you need to start thinking about. If I need to grow my business, I got to get my people to talk to more, engage with more people, and then not waste their time by utilizing low lead engagement providers, which will have them spend a lot more of their time on the wrong people. Anybody have any questions about that? Yes? You had 30% engagement, so you had 45 people engaged. 45 people, in this case, that actually talked to you, but you only got 4. This particular one I'm bringing up, even though they had engagement, typically we find, although I don't talk about closing ratios, the way that they disperse leads, people didn't get a lot of value of. And so I think we're going to cover this in a second of like why we think about this wrong. All right, so the best way to predict the future is we need to invent it. We need to change and go, okay, in the next couple of months, we're going to change the way our store does business because we're going to look at the dollars. I only have so many dollars. The worst thing to do is try to figure out to spend more, because that's kind of easy. Let's try to figure out how to spend it more efficiently to grow the business by doing it with less money. So we're talking about the illusion. The illusion that a lot of providers give us is that we can't be measured because we bring more to the table than what you see. So who doesn't want to be measured by what you can't see? Of course, everybody. I want you to measure me on something that can't be measured. Well, that sounds like a politician more than a third-party provider. We want to measure them on real stats and real numbers. We want them to actually be able to look and be able to do 2 + 2 = 4. That's how you actually will run your business. Auto Trader, and I'm going to use, they're obviously a big guy. They did this commission, they commissioned a report. And we're talking about closing ratios just for a second to make sure that we're off that page completely. They did a report, and I'm going to copy it right here and give them credit for it. They analyzed 20,000 dealers, and they analyzed the 8 different fundamental areas on the front end to make a sale. Vehicle selection, acquisition, transportation, reconditioning, pricing, photos, customer handling. We think there's a couple more. We think there's financing, trade-in value, rebates, incentives. Why I'm bringing that up is the reason why closing ratios, if you're using that today, you need to get that out of your vocabulary, is because all of those things have to work exactly right to close a deal every single time. It's not predictive. If I can put more people on my showroom floor, my managers and my salespeople will figure out how to make the sale, but they have to overcome those every single time on every single deal. I would guarantee you any dealership in here that had the exact customer, not the same number, the exact customers come back in your store this month who were here last month, you wouldn't have the same number of sales. Because your salesman got up on the wrong foot, they don't get along, there's not, this month there's not much on the trade, the used car values are this, so every single deal has to rest on all of these things to happen. So if that's the case, it's kind of irrelevant trying to figure out all of those things. All we want to do is put more seats, put more people in the seats, more people in my showroom. Then the managers will figure out the rest of it. I'm confident that sales teams and managers, we've got that piece figured out. And only going to move it, we're going to move it just by a percentage or 2. We're not going to double our sales by doing that. So if you look at what you did last month, because we want to say the next month is going to be something different, we want to go, how many leads did you get? First, you got to be able to measure this. So, okay, most if I asked you how many leads, you give me a number, 500, 400. All right, how many leads did you engage with? Way tougher. Because now you got to dig through and say, how many people, not just sent a lead in and responded to, how many responded again? So you got to dig through that. We calculate that for stores, and you can do it manually. But the question, but you have to start to look at that and dig through, and so you go, okay, how many real leads did I actually engage with? Two-way conversations. How many sales did you make? Look at how many sales you got for the month. All right, if you got 20% more engaged leads, how many more sales would have equated to? You look at your closing percentage at this point, but you're looking at how can I get 20% more engaged leads coming into my store? And then you need to take your lead sources and figure out who's underperforming, who's low. You're going to find out there's a big discrepancy in lead providers in the value they bring you every month. When you actually put pencil to paper, you're going to find 40, 50% differences in lead providers. You're going to find out that big names don't bring you quite the value you think. And other names bring you huge value. You need to do your own math so you can figure it out, how I'm spending my dollars. Look down. If you fired the lead providers, the low engaging ones, how much dollars do you free up? Once you figure out that there are some really bad lead providers, that they're not really giving you the value, if you got rid of them, how many more dollars do you have? Then you need to look at your high engaging lead providers and see, is there an opportunity to buy more? So I'm going to use the same dollars. I'm just going to reallocate them in a place that makes more sense, that gets me more showroom traffic. This is not as difficult as it looks. Once you start down the path of actually calculating this and pulling the numbers up, using different tools, some of your DMS tools, some of your CRM tools, it'll start to make sense. Compiling the information, once you have the information, now you can start to look at it and go, okay, well, I got to get rid of that person. I'm going to free up a couple of grand. But where can I spend that money on a higher engaging leads, which for the same dollars gets me more people in my showroom? What can you do with the dollars to drive more organic traffic? I'm a big believer in organic traffic. Organic traffic, you got to drive people into your website, into your chat. We know from experience, we handled last year over 10 million automotive leads. So we looked at every lead provider. So we have really great stats of who does what. But the highest engaging leads you're ever going to find come right to your website, or the closest to you, the closest to home. They're at your website, at your chat, at your finance app. Those are the highest by far. They'll be the greatest leads you'll see will be there. So it's simple. The real key is do the measurements, do the math. Now, how do you get, oh, and by the way, so I'm going to give him kudos here. So if you know Brian, maybe you guys may or may not know Brian out there. So Brian said, successful dealers across the country are fine-tuning their digital advertising investments and attempting to measure ROI. Dealers who are forward-thinking are planning their digital marketing budgets. He's convinced that dealers need to test and invest in, you may have heard him say this, except he said that in 2011. So 5 years ago, Brian was preaching organic traffic. So when you're cutting your dollars, when you start getting rid of these low lead engaging providers, it may be that those dollars need to be best invested in your organic traffic. If you don't know how to do that, there's a half a dozen companies right here today that can show you how to do that, how to invest in yourself, which will be the highest engaging leads you'll find. Now, the question is simple. It's your decision. You know, you're either an over and under company. You're either a company that's going to sit through this and go back and go, okay, we've got some work to do because we need to figure out how to spend less and grow our business, or spend it the right way and grow the business that we have. Shocker. Big stores have more leads, not a higher closing percentage. If I go into a dealership that's selling 500 or 800 cars a month, they just got a lot of leads. That's simple. It's not anywhere, it can't get any easier than that. And that really, quite frankly, is the big ha-ha moment. Oh, they don't close at twice the number? No. They don't have special lead providers? No. You just get more people walking through the showroom. So everybody can grow their business if they figure that piece of it out. Don't worry about the close ratio. Get more people to come into your dealership. So bigger is better. So how do we get there? So now we're going to get down to the actual way over the next 3 months you're going to grow your dealerships. So I can actually tell you to go and buy Stephen Covey's First Things First, and it'll outline the whole thing of how, the next 90 days, what you got to do. What first comes first, and then second and third. But I'm just going to tell you because you came to the seminar. So here we go. This is where it starts. John Wayne. Life is hard, but it's harder if you're stupid. The Duke said it best. When you leave here and you go back, any of these seminars that you're attending to, it's all a question about what you do with the information that you get here. So we're going to actually give you a 90-day plan that we're going to cut the marketing costs and grow your stores, and you can do this in 90 days. So how many of you in this room have ever heard a salesperson say this to you? Not an outside salesperson. How many of you ever heard somebody try to say, you should buy my solution because if you sell just 3 more cars, you can afford this? Is there anybody here? Let me do it the way around because it'll be less hands. Anybody here not ever hear that? I figured. Here's the worst. That, as bad as that is, this is the worst. How many of you ever do this? You know what? we sold 3 more cars, we should keep it. That's the mistake. It isn't what you bought, it's what you keep. Once you have third-party providers, if you're not looking at them, these lead providers, if you're not going to look at it and measure them, if you live by the rule that I sold enough cars to keep it, you're doing yourself a big disservice. And I find a lot of dealers fall into that trap right here. A lot of internet managers. Well, we had it last month. We sold enough cars to keep it. You're not going to grow your business doing it that way. You got to put everybody in the chopping block. Tomorrow, everybody's up for out. If you're not bringing me value, there's no sense staying here. 90-day challenge. All right, so we're going to measure your engagement by the providers. And you know how you do this? You go to your CRM tool and you print out a list of the third-party providers you're doing business with. By the way, after this, I'll give you your cards. I'll email this to everybody here who wants this. So you're going to measure, you're going to look at each of your providers, you're going to look at how many leads they give you, you're going to do some math, you're going to calculate, you're going to say, okay, how am I really spending my money? You got to do that first. You got to take a measurement. If you want to lose weight, you got to step on a scale first. I got to have a starting point. Lord knows I know that. I've stepped on enough with starting points. Here we go. Fire your bottom feeders. Those nasty catfish down there that are wasting your money, and you just haven't done. You're too busy. You're keeping them because you sold a couple of cars, but they got their engagement is terrible. They're no value to you. Get them out. Look at your top. Now go and look at the high engagement providers you have. Figure out if I spent more money, how much more could I get? That makes kind of good sense. If there's opportunity to expand in my higher engaging, which equates to more floor traffic, which is more sales, I want to figure out if that is. So your higher engaging lead providers, invite them in. Have them see, if I want to spend more money, what do I get? But get rid of these bottom feeders and move on to the big guys. What can I expand? And then invest in your own site. Invest in your own your traffic, invest in your own cars, your own inventory, start to own your area. Those 4 things we're going to do, but we got to do the first one first. So also, I'm going to challenge you to cut 10% off your budget right away. Whatever you're spending, you got 10% waste easy. It's just you had never really thought about, should we cut it? Could we get rid of it? Should I get rid of this one because everybody else in my town uses them? Stop doing that. Cut 10% off the bottom, get rid of these bottom feeders. 10% are going to be easy to do. Because you've got to start, the cutting of 10% allows you to get rid of those relationships which are bad relationships, and it gives you the cushion to invest in the higher engaging lead providers and to spend the money the correct way. Grow your engaged leads by 20%. It's hidden by the piece over there. So the trick is, once I figure out what my engaged leads are, let's say that I had 500 leads last month, and I figure out that I only had 200 engaged leads. In the next 90 days, you have to have a plan that says, all right, I need to have 240 engaged leads. I need to grow it by 20%. Because you're going to sell more cars just on that. But you have to have a plan to get there. The plan is figuring out, where am I wasting my money? How do I spend the same amount of money and get more engaged leads? And ultimately, if I can figure out how to grow my engaged leads by 20%, it's going to equate right to more cars sold. Does that make sense? We got to have some starting points. We got to do some metrics right up front. Focus on growing the lead volume, but only through high engaged lead providers, not low engaged lead providers. Get rid of the bottom people. So this is the part we do some real Q&A, because you've really got to grab this. So let's talk about some questions. Who's got some questions? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, of course. We want to, anything that they'll talk to you about, we want to count that. So of course, now that means you have to pull data from 3 or 4 places. You have to figure out what you really are as a starting point before you can figure out where you want to go. Yes?
But in your first example, I noticed
Right?
And then you're actually on lead provider C, if you break it down by number of leads that engaged, it was just $26.66. So
It was a difference.
they'd like us to get rid of them, but they were almost the same price point and it was a fewer number of leads.
Question. It's a good point. I want to give you 3 examples of how different lead providers charge you. The question in that third portion of looking at that was not the effective cost of lead. It was because they're so low engaging at 30% is how much time you're wasting chasing the negative side, the other side of the leads. Here's one of the things you're going to find, that if your overall effective lead rate, the engagement rate is low, it affects so many different things. Your team's time is taken up by, if you have an overall percentage that's low. So I can tell you, we look at dealers all the time. So if we have a dealer that has an overall engagement rate of 35% as a group, as all their numbers, their people are not effective. We see things what we call high leads at risk, or salesmen not getting back to customers who want to buy, only because they don't have any time. They're spending so much time chasing leads that don't respond. The higher the engagement rate, so you find, conversely, stores that get 50, 60, 70% engagement, they're more efficient because every call they're making is getting to somebody who picks up and calls back and forth. So there's a time element that I was trying to point out in C, which is your people only have so much time. If they end up chasing a lot of leads that don't respond, they end up missing the leads that want to respond to them. So you need to look at all those things, and not always is it a dollar figure. It's a question of time also. So there's some piece in there you have to figure out and go, because there's some lead providers that are going to be low that you're going to keep. I'm not telling you to get rid of all of them. It's just to make you think about it differently. You had a question here.
Yeah, do you consider Auto Trader a lead provider?
I do. So is eBay. eBay could be a lead provider. So it depends on how you use them. But yeah, Auto Trader's a lead provider. Again, there's somebody that says, you can't measure me because we bring other leads. I'm not a big fan of thinking that way. Of course, that's all. I would want to be measured that in a way that I can't be measured. So, but I look at Auto Trader as a lead provider. Yes. Yes. So that's a good question. So we see that good stores, national averages start running. The question for everybody is, what's a good engagement rate? What's a good engagement rate to shoot for? We see it that across the board, 51%. Once you start moving above 50%. Now, we have some dealers that are in the 60%. Now, because they've spent a year doing this. Our typical store that starts off with us starts at like 35, 37%. Because they don't really know what they don't know. They've never really looked at engagement rate. And then they quickly can move to 50%. It becomes obvious very quickly on who to jettison right away. Then they start to really micromanaging it, and then they start growing it to 60% because they start to market in the effective way to bring people more into their website and into their chat, which gets them a higher and higher engagement. So they keep moving the needle. So I've got some big stores that at this point, I'm not going to mention this store, but everybody would know them. It's a Toyota store doing 700, 800 cars a month. But they're actually at this point, they're getting about 1,000 less leads. They get started a year ago, they were getting 5,000 to 6,000 leads. Now they're doing about 4,000 leads, but they're closing 100 more cars. They're selling 100 more cars than they were before because their engagement rate went from about 38 to 39%. They're now at 57%. So they're spending less dollars, they're getting less total leads, their engagement went up, and they're selling more cars. Because the engagement really is the key. It didn't really matter until somebody engaged. Okay, I can't make an appointment. So my BDC couldn't get them in to make the appointment unless they were talking to me. And they never looked at those numbers before to figure out, wow, I've got these people that have no real value to me. I got to get rid of them. Yes?
If you're spending money on Google AdWords, all these lead providers are going to get.
So the experts here would tell you, and I won't mention them, I mentioned one, but there's several experts who tell you that if you, in your area, and I'm not an expert at this, but I know enough of them that will tell you, that would argue that case and say, if you took care of your area and your inventory, and you can compete with the big boys. You can't own it all, but you can own your space. And the question is, it's easy to start to experiment and start to use dollars for it because we're wasting dollars now. So there's 10% of your budget that you could use for it, and talk to some people here and go, okay, I've got X number of dollars. How do I start this, and how do I start driving people to that site? And that will very quickly raise your total engagement rate up by doing that. But I'm not the expert at that, but the people here would tell you the big boys don't own it all. Again, because they spend a lot, it looks like they own it all, but there are ways you can own your inventory in your town and own your website. Yes, all the way to the back. I missed the question.
Yeah, basically, I'm just trying to figure out the cost of an unengaged lead so that I can measure that person.
Yeah, you know what? We have not put a dollar figure on it. We looked at two measurements. We measure a thing called lead at risk. So a lead at risk is a lead that 2 days after they've supplied all the information and had an engagement, their perception is, or they say, we've never heard from a salesman. 2 days later. So a lead says, no one's ever called me. We see a correlation between this. The lower your engagement rate, the higher the people who say no one's ever got back to me who want to buy a car. The reason for that is that as engagement rate is low, your people are chasing so many bad leads, they don't have time to actually reach the people who have a hand up and say, I want to buy a car from you. And the reverse is true. As engagement goes up, leads at risk, or the people who say, I've never heard from anybody, no one's getting back to me, drops by itself because I'm getting a hold of people in one call. I'm not wasting time chasing leads, and this is what I was bringing up to this gentleman earlier. The cost of chasing leads that don't perform or never talk to me. So if you have a BDC, and I have my people chasing hundreds of leads, and it's just not one phone call. You're sending multiple calls, multiple emails, you're talking about it. What about the Smiths? Are they coming in? Have you emailed them? All of that ancillary BS around the leads that don't respond, that's the wasted time. You want to try to get to those people that engage because that's where the meat on the bone is right there. But we have not done a dollar cost of that, but I will tell you that you'll see more sales as your engagement goes up. You're just going to equate to more sales and your people are more efficient. Yes? Yep. I measure it exactly the same way. So, see, there's the issue that you're going to come up with, is that the thought process of this, that, well, there's all these outside ways of looking at cars and coming into my dealership, but I can't count them because they don't submit a lead. I would say there's a lot of bunk to that. I think there's a lot more bunk than that. Than people think. It's nice to think that way, that people are doing that, but I want to hold their feet to the fire like everyone else. If you're a lead provider, if you provide me leads, and both of those companies do, what is my cost to you and what is the engagement rate of the leads that I'm buying? I get that there's an ancillary, and they'll want to talk to you about, oh, there's lots of people that never come here, they're going to come into your store because they saw the car online. That's what should be replaced with your own organic work, your own work of getting those same people to come and look at your inventory. There's a whole back-end way to do this that all I want to do is spurn your interest in it and then have you work with all these companies out here who would say, okay, I get that's what those companies are saying. There's a way to do it better and cheaper. But you got to go on the path of thinking about it and saying, okay, I want to spend some money on that. But I get what you're saying. I think we have fallen into a trap of allowing that to not be measured like it should be measured. No, other way around. I think we hear from big lead providers that say you can't really measure this on the amount of engagement because people come in, they don't actually engage. Okay, but if I have to measure you on something, so I'm going to measure you the same way I measure everybody. Yes.
So engagement is a really broad term. So from a formula scoring perspective, what elements of engagement?
So engagement means this. You'll be surprised. A lead comes in. You can ask a question, you can provide information, you can do whatever you want. You can call them, they respond again. If just because a lead comes in and you an auto respond or you send an email or you send something, that's not engagement yet. That's just answering something. I've got to get them to, this is where the piece is difficult to measure. It's the response back. It's the second email back. That's when you're engaged. Because a lot of times what we find out is that the first engage that comes out, they didn't know they engaged. They didn't know they produced a lead. Right. You don't have to get any deeper than that. If they'll answer back the second time, that's engaged. They're talking to you. They may even say, I'm not interested, but that's okay. Just measure that piece right there. That's my cutoff. That's all I need to do. Get them to say something back after the initial lead. Yes?
So if you were going to break down, if I tried to do all of these for all three of my stores at one time, it would take my whole month. Is there? Take a store and take your top 5. Look around. You're going to start. It's going to be obvious to when you start to measure some of this, to go, wow, I had no idea I was getting so few engaged leads here compared to the number of leads they sent. Then start to dig in. 2 and 2 is what I think.
Of course.
Is the bottom and
Yeah, you can come. We have got software that actually could show you what that is, but you can do it manually. I mean, you're able to actually go out and just do the math and just start pick a couple and go, just for yourself and go, boy, what is my effective lead cost with this lead provider? Start to look at a couple and go, if there's a big difference, I need to be able to find out how to buy more from the higher one. Any other lead? Any other questions? Yes.
So do you count phone calls?
Yes.
So even though there might not be a back and forth, you count calls.
Well, if the lead gives me a phone number and I call them, we pick up the phone and have a conversation, I'm engaged. I'm sorry, do what? I don't really count that in digital. I mean, I'm more talking about leads here. So if the lead gives me a phone number and I can pick up the phone and call them and they'll pick up the phone and have a conversation, I count that as engaged. If they never pick up the phone ever, I never can get them and they won't answer my leads, I don't count that as engaged. I count a lead as engaged as this. A lead comes in. If it has a phone number, if I pick up the phone and they answer, I count it engaged. If I send them an email and they send me another one back, I count it as engaged. What I don't want to count is this: a lead that you get that you never hear from them. They won't answer your call. They don't ever answer they don't answer an email. They don't give you a response, because that's a lead that was created that really isn't a lead. So we want to figure out that those are no good. That didn't help you. Yes.
I think what he's saying is inbound phone calls. So a lead from the phone.
Right. We're only talking about digital leads, so I'm not counting phone calls. So I mean, we don't measure it that way. In this class, we're just talking about that. Yes. Yeah. So if they engage, so it's one of the highest engaging leads that you'll get is a lead coming in or a lead coming through your chat. The question, what you'll see, and this is interesting, the closer they are to you, your website and your chat is going to be the highest. You're going to find, quite frankly, that those have an engagement rate of north of 70%. That's why we're big fans of driving your traffic. So what happens is when they engage with chat, they provide information, and you call them, they're going to respond to you. So when you measure them through your chat, in your CRM, chat will be one of your things. You'll see, if you start to measure, you'll see it's one of your highest engaging lead providers will be whatever chat you're using today. It is, but so my point is, you can't buy more chat. You have to buy more views to get people to chat. So there's a whole system. You just can't go, I want to expand my chat. It doesn't really work that way. I can spend more dollars to drive people into my website, which officially will eventually drive them to my chat. So, yes.
Thank you. I would just say I've always known that what you can measure, you can improve upon. And I've been in the business for 2 years now, and I've been having such a hard time measuring this part of it. It really cleared a lot of things up for me. And for those of you that are using these third parties, just put a phone number on there that you can track. You'll know how many calls.
There you go. I mean, so yeah. Huh? Oh, what he said he's been, for a couple of years, he's been, trying to figure out how to measure this and how to track this, and he hadn't really thought about it. He sort of, this gives him a different way to look at it.
And use tracking numbers when you use third-party sites.
I think we're ready to, one last question? Yes, there are some that have really high and some that have very low, but no, you can't get the list. We can't provide it, but we can give you tools to measure it yourself. Thank you guys very much for coming in.